So what's up, everybody? My name is Juan Vasquez, and we are here with the CEI, and we are on all social media platforms. And today we have Aubrey Barnes in the building. What it do, my boy? And I just want to let you guys know that we're going to talk about a few different things and what we're mindful about, and how to take approach into that with your daily life.
Yes, sir, man. So when you just kind of bringing it up, like mindfulness and all that, like what is that like? When you think about mindfulness, like what does that mean to you personally?
To me, what it means is, I was thinking about this earlier, and the first thing that came to mind was to lock in, locking in with yourself. Especially if you're multitasking. You want to be able to multitask and deliver. And I mean, obviously that comes with a little bit of mistakes happening, but that's how you become mindful. One thing can happen, and you learn from that, grasp it, and bring it back in.
Yeah, I like how you put locking it in, and it's funny how it's like that's literally what kind of mindfulness is. I never heard anybody describe it like that.
I was thinking about that all day today.
Locking in. It's literally what it is, Like, because as you were kind of talking about that, like introducing it, like for me, like mindfulness, like in my kind of like how I kind of define it in my life as a creative. And again, mind you, like I did a lot of like being an educator, like in the schools that I have been for the last 10 years, like working in like at-risk schools. Like mindfulness has kind of been like the foundation of like what I do as like an educator and stuff like that, and it's been an important part of and what I do as an artist too. And like, I found that like mindfulness to me it's being present, being present in like what's around you, and just being aware of like what's going on inside you, what's going on around you, and realizing like how those things kind of affect you. Yep. And even like on an art level, like how those things can kind of like contribute to like telling a narrative that you can write about. Right. Like I was just telling, I was doing this interview this past weekend with this production company in Joliet, near Chicago. And I was telling him a story about how when I was going to Houston last year for my birthday for like a show and all that, and when I was walking through the airport going to my transfer flight, I walked past this person, and just as I was walking past them, they said something that like stuck with me. And it was that, you can't do two things at once. And like, because I was so present in that moment, I could just take that moment and be like, oh man, like that's a poem right there, But if I wasn't mindful in that moment to hear like what they were saying, I would have missed that moment to create. And that's why, like, I think when you think about mindfulness as a creative, like I think mindfulness is important in creativity, because like, that's where narratives are, within yourself, within what's going on around you, and just kind of like making sense of stuff within you and around you,
Right. So with you saying that, like, I find myself every day, with discovering how to approach mindfulness when I'm cutting hair and instructing another student next to me. So I will have a client sit in my chair while I'm talking with them, cutting their hair. I have a student next to me, and I'm being mindful of what they're doing as well, and just trying to make sure that I can, go back and forth and make sure that everything flows smoothly. And then on top of that, making sure that the next person, there's another person next to me. So it's like 1, 2, and it's like making sure they're good. And then at the same time, I'm looking to have the same result from all of us at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So I have to be aware of what's going on, you know what I mean? And like, it's interesting to see, but when you see it in action, it's kind of cool and rewarding, I would say.
I never thought about it. Like I like how you broke that down with like your work as a barber. I never really thought about that actually.
Well, and then and even as a barber, you're also paying attention who's walking in the front door. How to greet them, and then if you're teaching someone how to do that job, you're also making sure that when they go, it's executed, and it's like, oh man, he didn't say nothing to that guy. You know what I mean? And I'm over here in the middle of a haircut, still listening to someone else tell me about their life, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm being mindful, they're being mindful, and I'm trying to make sure that it all goes smoothly.
Yeah. Does that feel like draining at the end of the day?
And that's kind of something that I was gonna say, that it can be draining because you're working with different personalities.
Yeah.
All day long. And not just, I'm not just speaking the students that I have, but the clients that are coming in. someone might come in and throw off that vibe that you're having with the students, and there might be like a downfall because the customer is coming in like angry or down about something, and then now it's like shifts everything, and now you have to shift where your mind goes into that and how they need to handle that situation.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's really. I'm grateful you broke that down because I never really thought about like how
It
that kind of
happening,
like,
right? Like,
yeah.
like in the middle. Yeah. So that's kind of how I think about it.
And kind of like you being a producer too, and like working with like you've worked with like various amount of artists for like. And how long have you? Actually, I gotta ask that. How long have you been a producer for?
I would say like 20 years.
Whew. Okay. Wow. So you have a.
I started, pretty close to when I started cutting hair too. So
Wow.
and that was
okay.
in 2006.
Wow. So yeah, you've been at it for a minute
So
then.
music actually was a little bit before that, but around that same time is when I remember it, like getting into the programs and all that stuff like that.
Yeah. So you be a perfect person to ask then too, like with that kind of like with all your experience being a producer, like when you think about mindfulness in the field of like what you do as a producer and working with artists, like do you feel like mindfulness is a important like space for artists to kind of like prioritize in their creative journey and all that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I always discuss this with a lot of artists who I record. I'll let them know. I'm like, hey, think of this as coming into the shooting range, and you're coming in here to try to aim at the bullseye. And I'm that guy observing that you're trying to hit the target. I'm not just pressing. I'm being mindful about how you sound. Because there's a lot of times I'll capture something and the artist might have a headphone off or both headphones on, and then I'll be like, I didn't like that. Let me do it again. But then I'm like, this is like really good.
Yeah.
Let me like highlight it and drag it down, and I'll put it in the tuck. I'll tuck it in, and then like I will play it back as they're recording, and then after that I just kind of like will replace it and then show them like, hey, what do you think of this? And then they'll be like, oh, that one's good. I'm like, that was the first take that you did. And then they'll be like, okay, let's keep that. So just from doing that, it has now the song and the feeling of the session has just shifted. Because from an artist perspective, I don't know if you've ever had a day where your voice might be off, or you're just off and you're just like, I can't get this into the mic and out of my body and into the mic. And it's just like, it's just not connecting with me. I didn't like it. I'm leaving. And I think that's very important. If it goes, sideways right away, there's no coming back from that. And that can just be like, hey, everybody go home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, so I like how you bring kind of the technical part of kind of like the mindfulness and all that, because like as I was thinking about that question myself, like I think about like this recent thing, and maybe me becoming like older and all that, and becoming like the proverbial old man and stuff, but like West Side Gun, he just dropped the album, right? And I've gotten to a place where like I can't really listen to like music like that anymore because of like just having like a consciousness of myself of like, man, like I know what this like art's kind of about, I guess, in a sense for me of just like, it doesn't sit right with me personally to like listen to like music that kind of like glorifies like drugs or like even violence in a sense. And it's not even on anything like on a religious end. Cause I know like people who usually have that perspective usually come from like a very like dogmatic religious angle. Like for me, it's not that. It's just like more so what feels right in my body because I'm feeling what my body feels and kind of like listening to this and kind of be mindful of that. And as I was kind of thinking about that, I was like, dang, like I think like this is kind of like what mindfulness can do for you. And I kind of think about that when I think about artists who I've listened to who've really kind of changed their approach to music. Like A$AP Ferg is another person. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
So he dropped an album, I think a self-named album, Daryl, I think it was. And like that album was just literally about his whole journey of like becoming mindful. Like it was crazy. Like it's literally cool. Yeah. And I was like, man, that's dope. Like the fact that like he's now like, man, like what I wrote before wasn't really me. And now like this is who I am and all that. And I don't even say it to say like, I know when people kind of hear that coming from me, it's like almost like as if I'm like dogging anybody who makes that music. Like if you make that music and like that fits right with yourself in that present moment, only you can be honest about that. Like I can't knock what you are honest with yourself about.
Right.
Like just for me, it's just like in my journey with mindfulness, it's kind of like made me more conscious of like the more so the isms behind the lyrics, more so of like, man, can I really listen to this and like really sit with it as if it's not talking about things that like don't personally sit right with my inner being and all that, you know?
I think my like mindfulness to me also is like there's times where you have to reset. I think it's okay to tell yourself like that everyone, you know, multitasking, you know, or like you have so many, like a phone, right? That has so many apps that can be overwhelming to just have all that all on your phone all day long, and that's what you consume. That's just one thing that you gotta be like mindful about, and we have that every day. And I feel like for me it's okay to minimalize sometimes and like not try to be Mr. Do-It-All. Telling yourself it's okay to stop, reset, and restructure and be mindful of that, you know, not everything can be done with the time that you might have. So and I think sometimes we all, and I guess not everyone deals with it different. So, you know, I feel like cramming too many things at once might not be in the best interest for your flow of the day. You know, you might feel like, oh, I got all this stuff to do, but how successful and how are you going to execute all those things? Or did you just do all those things and it just became a pile of work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that sometimes that can happen, and when you're mindful of it, that's why I say it's okay to reset. Like tell yourself, be mindful, like it's okay that you're not doing that and that and that. Focus on this, and then go from there, and just let that kind of be in the present, you know, and I think that comes with focusing so much about, I'm still stuck in the past thinking about I should have did this, I should have did that, and you're trying to carry it with you into what should be the future when you should just chill and just what do you have in front of you right now, and what can you handle right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. No, it's handling one thing at a time. It's funny. One of my favorite poets says that like he does like multitasking isn't real. It's just you doing a bunch of things terribly.
That's what I'm saying.
But I literally agree with this. Like there's no such thing as like, if you're multitasking, you're just doing a whole bunch of things like terribly. And I think sometimes too, like that could kind of contribute to like the whole ism of like what people call like writer's block or artist block or anything like that. So when you think about like writers and artist block and all that, when it comes to what you're just talking about, like how do you think is like what do you think is like a remedy for creatives who kind of like have that writers or artist block that happens within themselves?
See, I think something simple as like this, and it's going to be super basic, but it's something just to like take a step back and be mindful to just take maybe a couple deep breaths. Just breathe, stand still and kind of let everything else that was kind of piling up on you, just let it go and start incorporating that, you know, okay, I need to pause for a second. Breathe in, and breathe in. That's kind of how I would approach like trying to reset myself, you know, like instead of like, oh, all this stuff I need to do it like this. No, I don't think that it's only going to make you feel more anxiety.
Yeah, and it's forcing
you don't want stress or anxiety to be a part of the creative process.
Yeah.
You know? So you have to pause sometimes, walk away, go for, you know, move around for a little bit, you know, it's do something that doesn't pertain to what you're doing, just to disconnect for a second. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's okay to stop and disconnect, come back, and then you're somewhat charged up because you got away from it, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that I think it's almost like I see our brain as that muscle that, like, you know, you go to the gym and you lift weights and you can see your bicep, and I feel like our brain for mindfulness is that's how you work out your brain.
Yeah.
You can become a better listener if you think of mindfulness. You know, you can, because sometimes when you're multitasking and we're talking to people, and you might catch what that person said a little bit, but at the same time, you got so much other stuff going on that you need to grasp mindfulness a little bit better to be able to communicate and process what people are saying to you in just a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
Because it happens to everybody, because we all got stuff going on in life.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm glad you broke it down that way, because my whole thing about writers and artist block is that, like, I don't believe it's a thing. Like I like it. And one of my good friends, who's a poet, Black Chakra, he broke this down in a workshop I did last year with him, where he said the same thing that you said, like, writer's block and artist block isn't a thing. Like, if you have a block, that means you're literally not supposed to be creating in that moment.
Right.
It's like, don't make it any deeper than that. Like, if you don't have anything coming out,
Right.
like, you don't got anything coming out. So, like, just go out, like you said, go out and walk and, like, experience life, and then, like, let life bring that creativity to you,
See
know?
if it brings you back around or not that day. You know what I mean? Like, I think same thing. It's like when the body, if your body's not feeling it to go hit the gym, but you go to the gym faithfully, and it's just one of them days, it's just, okay, well, your body's like, not today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And I also feel like sometimes you can overcome that. Like you said, it's not like a stopping point. You can maybe take that break, and that's what did bring you back, or brings you back the next day. As long as it's bringing you back and not fully disconnecting you to your creativity. Because I think that is also, if there's a lack of mindfulness, it puts you in a position to where you think about the idea that you want to do, of what you want to do, but you're so crammed up with everything else that it's just there, and you can see it, and you almost, it's like, have you ever seen a movie where, like, they show, like, I don't know what it's called, like, have you guys ever seen, like, someone sleep paralysis, and they're awake, but they could see stuff or whatever?
Yeah.
I think that goes on in our brain all the time. There's all these things going on, but like, we're seeing them, and it's like our conscience when it talks too. We have all these voices that can kick in, and when you're just thinking in your head and talking to someone out loud, you know. So I feel like that's how I look at that.
Yeah.
Mindfulness is it can be a game changer if you really can just working out that part of your brain for that reason.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And so, like, with you being a producer too, like, and I forgot to even, like, so, like, you're an engineer as well,
Right.
and you produce as well, like, beats and all that, right? So, like, with your work as, like, a beat producer and all that, because, like, I'm super, like, I've always been super, like, infatuated, or more so, like, curious with, like, the whole art of beat producing, because it's so cool seeing it from a distance, because obviously, like, being someone who's worked in the studio for like 10 years with different artists, like, just seeing how they put sounds together and all that.
Sound design, but, you know,
it's crazy, you know? Like, you'd have to have, like, to me, like, there's a sense of, like, an artfulness and mindfulness there, because you have to pay attention to all these sounds and how they, like, blend together and all that. So, like, how does that process kind of feel with you in the sense of, like mindfulness and all that?
All right, so, like, when we're speaking of, like, in the studio, there's times where, like, I'll just start playing sounds, and, like, and I'm aware, though, I'm being mindful of who's behind me or on the side, I'm looking for, like, small signs, like the foot tap, you know, are they walking right out of the room, or are they getting closer to me to kind of, like, I'm reading their,
wow.
and then that's how I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take. That's the sound. Keep it. It's already a check mark for me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they like that. Let's see what sounds like if I play a happy chord. Are they happy right now? Oh, they're not in that mood right now. Let me play something dark. You know, I'll play something dark, and then right away you can hear the humming and just the idea and the vibe happening. So then that's when I'm like, okay, I'm going with this. And then I'll just kind of play the next thing, like a snare or the kick, and then I just add as I'm adding as I go, and as I'm playing stuff, and I notice, like, the reaction of, like, I don't like that, or just or I can even, like, sense it with them. That's what I'm aware of when we're doing that. So I make sure that that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, man. So just from like how you've been describing kind of like your life of mindfulness, your mindfulness kind of makes you more conscious of like the people around you and how you can kind of serve them well,
Right.
like with your art.
Right.
That's super dope.
Yeah, even here, like for the barbershop, all the employees at my shop, I'm also aware of what they got going on, making sure that that everything at the shop is there, that clients are getting to them and they're getting booked. You know what I mean? So I'm also being aware of those type of things in the midst of all those other things. But it's finding, I think once you're do it so much, you start to find that rhythm and then you just lock in.
Yeah. No, that's what's up. I like that. And just in the sense of, again, like the fact that like it makes you super in tune with
Right.
people, you know.
But don't get me wrong, you're still gonna fall off track. Not everything is gonna be perfect and smooth. You're gonna fall off track, but that you get back up and you realize you're mindful of if that's going to work for you or not. You know, you maybe I put too much on my plate. That maybe that's not for me right now. What can I start taking things off my plate so that I can actually freely flow and create and feel pleased about the creation.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I like that. That's what's up. So like, I want to ask this too, just because like with how your mind kind of works as like a producer and like how you kind of just are very mindful of like the people that you like work with and how they feel a sense of like groundedness and all that. Like when it comes to working with like rap creatives and all of that, is that a hard space to kind of like be and maybe I should say this because like for me, like I guess I think about this just because 3 or 4 weeks ago, I went out to Fairfield for one of our brother's birthdays, right? And he wanted me to. His wife invited me out there to do a show and all that for him out in Fairfield, Iowa. And they wanted me to do music. I haven't done music in like 3 years, and I don't really have a desire to anymore because I'm just like, it's just exhausting. Like that's an exhausting energy. Like it's just too much and all that. But I went out there and kind of did it still. But and I've had people tell me since it's like, oh, you should get back into this and that and the other. But like, I just thought to myself, like, and this doesn't speak to community as a whole, obviously, because obviously nothing's like monolithic. But like for me, like it feels like sometimes like the rap community is so like ego driven sometimes where it doesn't make it fun anymore. Like where everybody's so about themselves. Like it's so like competition based, which like I like competition. That's why I get involved in like poetry slam competitions. Like I love it, but it's like a different competition rap wise where it's almost like I'm not just better as you as an MC, but as a human being. And it's just like, come on, man. Like it's a lot.
That does happen a lot. Like in the studio I've learned, which in situations with dealing with, I feel like different personalities. And their energy. Sometimes I feel like I've also got rid of clients that I'm just like, I can't mess with that energy.
Yeah.
Like, you're really good at what you do, but it's just, man, what you're bringing here in my environment, and I don't want that. And I'm not saying that everyone is, but in the situations I've been in. So, and I've been in situations where that doesn't happen, and we vibe, and then I still record them all the time, you know, and things like that. And so I try to be aware of those things now because I went through a lot of trial and error. In the beginning, when I was starting to engineer, I wanted to record everybody. I wanted to, and at first it was just for a little bit of money because I was already cutting hair and I was already making a living doing that. So music to me has always been something that I started first. Still, as I was cutting hair, was finding myself going back to what you were saying about the artist side of things. I had to make a very mindful choice. I worked to be an artist. That's how I started mixing. That's how I started making beats because I didn't want to pay for studio time, and I didn't want pay for beats. So I wanted to save money and also learn how to do it. So that's one thing that I had to be mindful about was like I was draining myself as the artist. So when I was trying to always figure out when do I post. That was stressful. When do I what am I gonna write about today? And this is the biggest one too. Like when you want to be in the, in the rap culture,
Yeah.
you also you know that you have to live, eat, breathe, all of that you're spitting into the microphone.
Yeah.
So now you're becoming this other person that you really don't want to be. And I feel like that's how I started to, like, I would get into things that I shouldn't be in, and I'd be in trouble, or it was a negative result, right?
Huh.
And then it made me realize, like, that's not who I am. Like I
Yeah.
started thinking more about if I keep making that same mistake, where that line takes me, like where I was going to end up at. And that's when I hit the shift, and I was like, but what do you really like about music? Well, for me, it's always been the sound.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I love to mix, and I get joy out of hearing like the artist hear themselves back and like what they envision, like trying to find what your vision is, and both meeting there in the middle, and then we both feel great about it. That I like to kind of get to that point right away. So I think that's something that is huge to think about for those creatives out there. Don't stress so much about trying to be someone you're not and impress others. Always be yourself and lock in.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing for the last, probably, I would say 10 years. I've been trying to find myself. And I think what has really changed my life, and everybody's life is different, what changed my life was having children. I had that changed my perspective in life a lot, because now it wasn't just me, Juan, the pursuing rap artist, trying to do shows, and now I have responsibilities. I have real, and some people don't want to take those or own up to those responsibilities, but it's real. I think it's so important to, my family's morals, and raising children and having a family. That's big on my end. So I had to pick the side that I really wanted to go. Like if I lived this way my whole life, why am I straying away from it? And all these bad things are happening to me. I'd rather go this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to go with what I know and just stick with the route.
Yeah. No, that's what's up. I'm glad. I literally was talking to my students about this, and I'm glad you brought it up, just about kind of like how responsibility kind of changed your trajectory, and like how you kind of like started to do art in a different way, because you're like, okay, because I have this responsibility being my family, I got to do art this way and that way. Because like responsibility has been the kind of like a word I've kind of like, I've wrestled with, I guess, the last couple years as I've kind of grown as a creative, just because of like, it's not, because it's never been a word that I've given myself. It's a word that I've been given to by others in different ways, from like people saying that like I'm a leader in this sense or that sense. And I'm like, I didn't call myself that. You called me that. I just want to create my stuff and do what I want to do and be out the way at the end of the day,
Right.
But I've kind of like slowly, I guess, been coming to grips that like there is a responsibility that I get to myself as a creative, and kind of like what I create, whether it be like, in this sense, obviously poetry, from what I create as an educator too, and all that. And I think that kind of accepting that responsibility has kind of made me more so focused and more intentional about how I move and all that.
Right. So do you feel like mindfulness and meditation are the same thing?
That's a good question. I think one informs the other. I think
Mindfulness.
Yeah, I think mindfulness is a product of meditation. When people think meditation, like people always think like, get so freaking annoyed.
Yeah.
Like y'all are thinking in such a one-dimensional way.
Like I said, it's simply just
if you're going out for a walk,
just locking in.
that's If you're going for a walk, that's meditation. If you're taking a moment just to like look at the Mississippi or the tree.
Well, one thing for me where I find myself doing that, like the meditation part, is jogging.
Yeah.
I'm like in this world where I'm like,
Man,
just running, and it's like I'm in this other world. I don't know. It's like my breathing is like, if you're not locked in, you're breathing all over the place.
Yeah.
You're ready to hit the treadmill and say, I'm out. I did, my little walk. But when you lock in, you're like, oh man, this mile just got easier and easier and easier because I keep locking in.
Yeah. Man, I ran cross country for 12 years. And that
rhythm, it's like a rhythm.
That's literally my first introduction to meditation. Because again, like whenever I ran, and this always made my mom worried and stuff like that. Like I was the kind of person who ran without a phone with me, or even without a watch, because I'm like, I don't want to pay attention to nothing.
So you're just
like
free flowing.
I just want to run and that's my way of just getting away from the world too. Because like just being an introvert, like I just don't like being around people.
Right.
So just being able to like run and just be by myself, that was kind of my introduction to it. But like you said, like that's where I'm able to kind of like focus on my breathing, focus on my arms and all that. And just even kind of like you wrestle with yourself too. Cause again, like in order to like run long distances, you got to be able to like acknowledge that you're tired, but also not like acknowledge that you're tired. Cause the moment you like tell yourself,
I give up.
Yeah. You're done.
Like I said, on the treadmill, you can get on there for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, take your little walk and be like, oh, that's my warm up. Or you could just turn it up to what you're running to and just know that you're about to lock in.
Yeah.
And just be situated in your brain to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they call, when I was in college, they called it like, so when you're able to like, I never experienced this till like I was in college, but they had this thing called a runner's high where you get like,
you feel it. You feel like when you listen to music and you get those, like the goosebumps feeling.
And where you don't even feel pain.
Yep.
Like I
you're
remember
just floating.
Yeah. And you're just going.
Right. I know. Yeah.
That's literally what it is, So for me, when I kind of think about meditation and all that, that's literally a form of it, because like you're so locked in, as you said, to a point where like I don't even feel the pain in my knees, my ankles. Like I don't even care about what thoughts going through my brain. All I'm focusing on is the moment. What's going on in the moment is me moving, Do
you think that AI can help with mindfulness or destroy mindfulness?
Both. I think it depends on how you use it. Honestly, I think I think it depends on how you use it. I think because I have seen it. I have a friend right now who's working on technology right now to do more work within mindfulness and all that, to help people with mindfulness and all that. And like seeing him do that, I'm like, yo, this is really dope. Like this could have a lot of success with like helping people kind of like lock into like what mindfulness kind of requires of you, and then there's other things like with AI and all that can totally take you out of the moment, and all that. But I think it's a great technology, and I think it's just like living in the space and time that we do now. We live in a place where more or less of us are addicted to technology, and we just got to accept that. And I think like
it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think with that, it's just being able to come alongside technology in the space of like, okay, we know people are here, so let's create a way to use this technology in a way where like it benefits people. I think that's a dope way to go about it. So I definitely see AI as being kind of like a really good resource for others when it comes to like mindfulness and meditation and all that. Your traditional meditation person or mindfulness person will probably be like, but it's
so like for you, like when you're mindful that you're stressed or there's anxiety, what do you do? What are some ways of you to decompress and reset?
Being a poet, like literally, like I just go to writing. Literally, like I tell my students, like even as a performance poet, like there's poems that I have that nobody will ever read because they were just for me to kind of get whatever's out of my head out, and that was it, But also like a lot of I really practice when the seasons permit, with how cold it is right now. I don't do it, but like with just going outside and walking too, because that's where I get a lot of my ideas too. I think I think every creative, and this is something that I think that I challenge every creative to do. I think like as a creative, if you create and all that, you should go outside. You should go outside, like, and just find whatever that is for you. Like, whether it be going to like somewhere as quote unquote small as like Black Hawk Park. And I say small because that park's actually pretty big. And you can like walk around that whole park, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Or Alanawick, you know?
So, you know, just by saying going outside and walking, you know, from a producer's standpoint, you know, you got a producer like Timbaland who puts like birds that he hears outside and or like babies crying and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just stepping out and just like, I'm going to go somewhere else and bring those ideas from out there and then come back and instill them into what I'm about to give you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It just grounds you in a unique way. You know, I think sometimes just like as creatives, we can kind of like, and this is me included, you know, we can kind of get stuck in our little like boxes of stuff, you know, and sometimes that stifles our creativity, I think, you know, a little bit. I think it stifles our creativity a bit. And I think just like having that practice of like just going outside in some kind of form, like I said, it's not always just like going into parks and all that. It's you can walk alongside the bike path by the Mississippi. You know, you can walk downtown Rock Island as much crap people give by Rock Island. Like, you know, like on a fall evening, it's a pretty great place to walk, you know?
I think that's one of the things that like even when we're in class at the barber college, it's something that we just kind of sometimes take a breather. I say, hey, you know, we just went through this lesson. Let's just go outside.
Yeah,
just
that's
go.
perfect.
And then everyone goes outside and then you could just see the energy just go from, you know what I mean? Because they just gave it their all trying to, you know, take in this new subject. So then you go outside and they're laughing. It's like, it just breaks kind of like that barrier, you know what I mean? Where people feel like you feel stuck and can't breathe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when taking in information, that's the biggest thing is like you take it one bit at a time and, you know, and then for yourself, let it go out as it comes. You know what I mean? Don't go on overload, system overload.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep you know, saying this, but it's okay to restart, reset, try again. It's okay, you know, to do that because if you're sitting there with system failed overloads, I mean, what else do you think happens to a computer? It crashes. You know what I mean? That's the same thing with us. You know, we're no different. We're getting so much information and energy into one spot that eventually we're gonna crash in whatever way that is. Whether you go to sleep, whether you can't talk, or you want to turn the lights off and sit in the dark, whatever you do to disconnect. But you know what I mean? I think we're here to connect as human beings. We're supposed to connect. Not saying that every connection is the right one or anything, but we're here to take, you know, that positive and instill that into one another. And maybe even help those that might feel like they can't or they won't, and any negative thought in their brain. I feel like I've been able to overturn that just by having a simple conversation with someone. I've had students that want to say, hey, I don't think barbering's for me. Oh man. And I already see like, no, you're good. You got it. And then it might be whatever life has aside of what they're actually doing at barber college. So sometimes I might have to tell that person like, you know what, don't, like, just, you got this much time left. This is, you know, you've already, like, just trust me, trust the process. Give it another go. And just that conversation, they never quit. You know?
Yeah.
And they were gonna quit, you know? And they still had the opportunity to be like, I don't care what he says. I'm quitting. You know, I've heard that, you know, I've been an instructor for 4 or 5 years now, and I've heard, out of all those times, I've heard that I couldn't even count, you know, and I've seen people that, just like I would say, barbering ain't for them, or, you know, be like, look, man, just give it a try and just watch at the end, this is not everyone is doing this and can finish it because it's not easy. You want it to be easy. You wanted to come here and you're already seeing people who are seasoned, who, there might be your classmate, but this guy's been watching YouTube videos for 2 years consistently and cutting his friends and practicing the practice. Mm-hmm. You're not. You came fresh and you just signed up and you don't know what's going on, but you got to give yourself a shot. Mm-hmm. You can't just look at that person and watch him go crazy and do all that stuff and then be like, that ain't for me. You didn't even try.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's okay to try, reset, and come back to it. And don't, if it comes overwhelming, figure out why. So I a lot of the times I have like these small evaluations kind of with just kind of hear out what's going on. Why do you feel that way? Why? How do you learn better? Like, is me reading to you? Like, are you bored? Okay, then what do you want me to do different? I can work one-on-one with you if and you want to sit in class, that's fine, but I'm willing to put that a little bit. If you put in the effort, I'm matching that. Yeah. So we could win if you want to, go hand in hand with the same energy. Yeah. That's what I mean, instilling that into other people so that you're helping them become mindful of that.
Yeah. And that's dope that you do that though, because that takes a sense of like flexibility, like, of just being able to like, and just kind of like what you practice is something that like I always tell people like is important for educators to have. Cause like I think like your traditional teacher, when a student said like failing, they kind of are just like, okay, well, they didn't do what I said the first time, right? So maybe I need to do it again. And that's usually like not the case. It's like they probably don't learn the way that you presented it to them. Like you presented to them.
That transfer of energy, you got to know how to,
You presented to them in words. Maybe they're visual learners, or maybe you presented them in visual and they're kinesthetic learners. And like, if you just do the same thing over with them and expect different results, don't we call that insanity?
Right, exactly. You're overcomplicating it. And I think when you can just put that little bit of effort and not overcomplicate what you're trying to do, and just try, if it comes down to simplifying, if something becomes too complex, how can you find it to make it more approachable for them to want to do it more and more because they feel almost like a reward out of it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what keeps them coming back, with it. And I feel like it's good to tell people that they're great and they're good at what they do. But I also feel like just the reward side of things makes you want to chase that thing that you do. Like if you want to get better at cutting hair, it's rewarding knowing that you might think in your head, okay, I'm good, but it's more rewarding when you got a client who's in your chair and they get up and they're like, man, you got me right. You know what I mean? That is a reward. It makes you feel good that, you knew you were good at doing it, but it's nothing more rewarding than that transfer of energy from that other person. Yeah. To reassure and make you feel good about it, Yeah. You made them feel good. They made you feel good. It's a win-win situation.
It's a win-win.
And it was simple. You didn't have to do nothing too crazy. But like you said, when ego gets in the way, that can also destroy your mindfulness because you just think you're on top of the world and, you don't want to put in the hard work that goes into some things and become more knowledgeable and well-rounded overall and in whatever it is that you're doing, instead of just saying, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, or I have this status of money and that's why I can do whatever I want. You know what I mean? That to me is just a disconnect.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. Yeah. So kind of like to kind of wrap it up and all that, like what would you kind of give as like a first step for creatives to kind of like practicing mindfulness in their own creative journey? Like what would you kind of give them as like, this is what you should do first to kind of embark on this journey and make this like a practice in your life?
I would say if it's hard to keep track of things in your brain, I would say start off with a journal. Yeah. Get a journal and start writing down simple, maybe start off with 3 things you want to incorporate into your day and say these 3 things, or it could be one, just to make it easy. Start with one thing that, hey, I want to start going to the gym, right? You want to be, that's something maybe that you want to do. Well, start with day 1, you go. You don't have to go and do a full body, crazy hit workout. Just go walk. That's the one thing that you do. And then go and then add whatever and keep building as time goes. Have something to look at while you're practicing it. So that way you're not just like, oh, I thought about it, but I didn't keep it in my brain enough to go and do it.
Yeah.
I just thought about it. I think if you have a log, it helps. It makes you feel, I see people like that sometimes at the gym. They'll have a book, a little journal, and then that's kind of their practice to getting it done.
Yeah.
If you can't, keep it in your mind.
Yeah.
So I think that's a tip that I would say, and then just start small. That's the biggest thing. Don't try to say, don't go to Chat GPT and be like, hey, man, give me the whole day, the 20 things I need to do today, because are you sure you can handle that?
Yeah.
So you want to...
One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. You know? And like I said, if it helps, use AI technology,
Yeah, there's no shame in it. Yeah.
I think it's a helpful tool, and that's another way to get started and finding out what to do and where to look for that. But I think it all begins within yourself and what you really want in your life. Not, I want to say, don't force it.
Yeah.
And just stay focused and lock in.
Yeah, man, I couldn't have said it any better, man. You took some words right out of my mouth, Loki. Just do it one at a time and don't force it, man. No, I appreciate this conversation, man. This is dope. This is definitely dope.
Oh yeah, I definitely I enjoyed our conversation and what we're doing here. I think it's gonna be something that the audience here can really take in, and hopefully that they can lock in, and check us out on the CEI on all the social media platforms. Again, I'm Juan Vasquez.
Yep, Mr. Hobbs.